Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Mordechai. There are more sponsors than you see, but in my forgetfulness, I forgot the sheets at home. Sponsored by the BPP of Teaneck, Bergenfield, for the Refuah Shelaima, Shira, Devorah Leah, for Shelayma, Bekarov, from family and friends started a chesed initiative called #Do It for Shira, asking everyone around the world to do random acts of kindness in the zchut for Shira Devorah Leah. As I was walking here, I received a message, I guess from the family, that Shira is still, you could bring that because, use that one. It's not the exact language, but we could do both. Shira is still in a coma, but she's being responsive to some commands, whatever that means, and they said it's mammeh miraculous. By Mordechai, Sapoznick, and Yitzchok Hershkowitz. This might be the anonymous friend, who knows? For zchus, for Refuah Shelaima, for Batya Elisheva, Bat Rachel Tzubeli. I know this woman. I lived in her building in Eretz Yisrael, Ramat Hanan, 40 years ago, 30-something years ago. So I know her. They're very friendly with my uncle, Eli Stefansky. So, wow. It's unbelievable. The world, it's a very small world. People from all over that we know are sick these days and they need a refuah. Batya Elisheva bas Rachel. The mother-in-law of Yitzchok Hershkowitz, Mrs.Tzubeli, is in the ICU. Let us all be mispallel that she should have a refuah shelaimah bekarov mammeh. Here, this one you can hang up if you want. From the, I don't know if this is relevant anymore, for a good reason. From the New York MDY Chevra, Refuah Shelayma to our dear chaver, Dovid Shmuel ben Bela Devorah. Does anybody know who Dovid Shmuel is? You recognize this guy? This is Dovid address, the Baal Mechaber Sefer, Nigan. Where in the world do you do daf? And he's out of the hospital now because he's in a certain Brooklyn, I'm not going to mention the name, hospital in Borough Park. I'm not going to mention the name. They put the, you could see he's hooked up to oxygen. This is where all the COVID theories come in, the conspiracies from this story. They hook him up to oxygen. His oxygen was not bad. It was 93, 94. It turns out a day later that it was never hooked up. So he had such strong oxygen levels without the machine, they sent him home. So I don't know if one thing I did, I've made an arrow here that you see his tefillin in the background, and in the tefillin bag, there's the Daf Yomi. He brought the Gemara with him, right over here. So Dovid addressed, he should have Refuah Shelayma. He did fall faint from COVID. He was out. First time in his life that he passed out. I spoke to him yesterday. He's doing great. All right, Be'ezer Hashem. Who else do we have here? Oh, we have, you could see, somebody took my book. Every day we use this book. It's part of the Shira. It's called A Glimpse of Light. This is from Dr. Shamroth. Dr. Shamroth, unfortunately, went to the hospital, not for COVID, for other reasons. And yesterday, they did an emergency surgery. I heard that he's doing, Baruch Hashem, pretty good. So we have to continue to be mispallel. Moshe ben Rivka, Refuah Shelayma. And here's another one of his books. These books are coming in, they get a lot of use, Baruch Hashem. But before or after surgery, what's that for you?
He was right before.
Right before, okay. So that's the chiddush. David Shmuel ben this, we did. What else do we have? I feel like I'm missing one. Okay. If I'm missing it, I apologize. Oh, yes. There was an email that the Shira people wrote. So real quickly, just I'll have to read it tomorrow. Dear Rebelli, this is from Ronnie Aquinen from Bay Harbor, Florida, I think. It is the era of Zoom and YouTube that allows one to tag along an amazing shir and almost complete a masechta, and yet not to have a chance, ability to introduce oneself to the Maggid Shir Rebbe. I did not want to reach the scene before introducing myself. My name is Ronnie Aquinen, and I'm in Bay Harbor, Florida. No, what's your excuse for not writing in, saying Shalom Aleichem? Yosef? I attempted Daf Yomi in the past a couple of times and never connected. After seeing an ad in the Ami magazine for MDY, I decided to try it, and now I'm hooked. Yossi Klein, the guy that says that the Shira is a stress relief pill from Monsey, he's the one that put in these ads in Ami. So he has all the zchusim. Well, I'll share a little bit of them. Ronnie, when he's hooked from the Ami, look at that. You could also be mishtatev. You put it in Mishpacha magazine. Salgans is Ami. Just wanted, what? Yeah, exactly. You have zchusim. Everybody has zchusim. So we all share a little bit. It's a pyramid dream. Just wanted to thank you all for the hard work that it takes to deliver the class with such clarity. You should continue to inspire others just as you've done with me. Have a great week. Thankful, Ronnie Aquinen from Bay Harbor. Here's one more from Yossi Tesser. Rebelli, I can't begin to explain what you are doing. Been following you since Pesachim. You're my second share every day. First is 5:45 a.m. At night, I review with you. It's unbelievable. Mikam Yisrael starts at 5:45 a.m. Just been in the hospital for past 8 days. Released on Friday night. I know I was getting better when I was able to listen to you once again. I wasn't even able to tolerate any sounds, but after a week, and finally able to hear your good morning, Rabbi Isai, I felt I was on my way. Kol HaKavod, Yossi Tesser, Lakewood, New Jersey. My mother, Aleh Shalom, was close to your mother, Aleh Shalom. Gewaltige Sachen. Today is Daf Pei. We are holding, we're not going to count the lines, but it's a bunch of lines. Let's call it 4 lines from where it becomes wide. We're in the middle of the arts and crafts sugya. So we had like this. We had a case where 50% of Cholei Yisrael is tahar, 50% of Cholei Yisrael is tamei. The halacha is that all the people that are tar, the 50% that are tar, they make a Pesach on the usual day, Pesach Rishon. The 50% that are tamei, there are 3 options, and that gives us 3 shitas. Rav says they do the Korban Pesach on Pesach Rishon with everybody else. They're considered a majority, remember? So if we want to look at it like that, we can look at it like that. Are they considered a majority, and a majority does it on Pesach Rishon? Are they considered a minority, and they do it on Pesach Sheni? Or the Nishtahin and Nishtaher, they're not a majority, not a minority, and therefore they don't do it at all. So you have all 3 shitas. You do it on first Pesach, you do it on the second Pesach, you don't do it at all. Rav Kahana says there's 2 L'shonos in Rav Kahana. So, yesterday, we read on double speed. Somebody said that he thought he was watching YouTube yesterday on double speed. Then the shir. I don't know how we got from the top of Amud Beis all the way to where we're holding, like in 2 minutes flat. But somehow it was a kfitzis haderech. It was very, very simple stuff. But we brought a brisa that just says all 3 shitas. How does that work? How can you have... The halacha is like Rav, they do it on Pesach Rishon. The halacha is like Rav Kahana, you do it on the second Pesach. The halacha is like Rav Kahana, you don't do it at all. So what is it? So the Gemara uses these arts and craft things, not mamish, I'm using the arts and crafts. We're dealing with women in the equation, and that's what's going on here. So now we are holding by L'Rav U'Lelishna Kama de Rav Kahana. According to Rav says if half of Cholei Yisrael is tamei, they do it on the first Pesach. And the first Lashon of Rav Kahana, you do it on the second Pesach. How do you reconcile the brisa that says you don't do it at all? They don't do it at all. How could you fit that in? Says the Gemara, okay, now I have to use arts and crafts in 2 different ways, sort of. Rav is going to answer. You're going to Yisrael mechza tmeim umechza tahirim v'nashim oitfos ala tahirim. The key word over here is oitfos. Together with the women, you have exactly 50-50. You add a couple of women, now you have 51% of Cholei Yisrael that needs to. These are the tahirim. So with the women, there's a little bit more than 50%. Very interesting things happening here. The first Pesach, women are obligated in the Korban Pesach. They all come to the Beis Hamikdash or whatever it is. They're all part of groups, and they have to bring a Korban Pesach. So therefore, we count them just like we count men. They're equals. So now we have 51%, are tar. So what happens to the 49%? 49% doesn't bring a carbon today, because 49%. But Rishon lo yavdi, the people that are tamei don't bring a carbon at all today. Why? Because they're the minority. You don't bring a carbon when you're tamei and you're the minority. Only when Roiv Cholei Yisrael is tamei do you bring a carbon. Betuma. Davli miyut. Umiyut lo yavdi berishon. Ubesheni lo yavdi. Very interesting thing happens here. So let these guys, the tamei guys, how come they don't bring on Pesach Sheni? Yudalad Iyar. The answer is because these women no longer count. Because they only count on Pesach Rishon. They're mechuyev in Pesach Rishon, not in Pesach Sheni. So now let's fast forward to Pesach Sheni. Now you have to remove these ladies. Okay, so you remove them. By the way, I don't want to show, I'm going to show you guys Levi Freeman, please don't look. This is the back. Using that solo sticker from my refrigerator. Okay, anyway.
All these people have to go to Levi, they're going to have to call it
Oh, these guys from this Levi. I have another one. All jokes and everything when we get to Daf Pei. Right now we got to move. Now, once you remove the women, what do you have left? 50-50. 50-50, you don't do anything on the second Pesach. Why? Because 50-50, according to Rav, we said, is a majority. Majority never does on Pesach Sheni. Majority does. If the majority of Cholei Yisrael is Tamei, they do it on Pesach Rishon. Majority of Cholei Yisrael Tamei, they don't do it on Pesach Sheni, and they just flipped into a majority by removing the women because the women are not chayiv on Pesach Sheni. Well, Rav Kahana, now we have, okay, that's Rav. So that's a case that they don't do b'chlal. Nishtahi, nishtaher, they don't do it at all. Sorry. That's according, they don't do it at all. We asked, how does the Bride say you don't do it at all? So according to Rav, we have a situation. Well, Rav Kahana, but that was Rav that says that when it's 50-50, you don't do it at all. What about Rav Kahana? He says 50-50, you do it in the second Pesach. In order to get to the 50%, you have to add a woman. Or women, let's call it, oy Hatzal is not working. Okay, fine. You have to add women. You add the women, and now you have, before we said with the women, they're 51%. Now we're saying with the women, they're 50%. So he holds that women are chayiv, like we said before. So it's a good, they could be part of the equation. They're part of the minion, so to speak. You need them. They have to do korban bezel, so they're part of the 50%. However, Berishon Le'avdi, the people that tell me don't do the carbon Pesach on the first Pesach, Upalgo, it's 50-50, Upalgo Berishon Le'avdi. According to Rav Kahana, you don't do 50-50 on the first one, B'Sheni Nam Le'avdi, and why don't you do it in the second Pesach? Once you remove the women from here, now you have less than 50%. Once you remove the women from the Tahirim, then the Tameim become the majority. Not like before, they become equal. They become the majority. Majority, that even Rav Kahana agrees that they don't do in the second Pesach. Well, Rav Kahana, Rachel Tzubeli. If it's 50-50, Rav Kahana says. How's Rav Kahana explain this? If it's 50-50, each group, the Tahirim do it by themselves, the Tameim do it by themselves. I agree that there are Tanoim that say not like me. Like we said before, that's Rav Shita. 50-50, each one is a majority, so I view it as a majority. But I don't hold like that. Okay, that's how I hold. I hold that 50-50 is not a majority. Gufa. 3 lines from the bottom. If you have 50-50, 5 million that are Tamei, and now you realize you did a recount, and you realize it's 5,000,001. One Jew. It's a fraction of a percent. I'm not going to go into the Panovich math now. One Jew. That's enough. Afilu echad. Yaseh B'Tumah, Lefi Shein Korban Tzibur Cholok. We're going to see a gewaldige thing in a second in Rashi, what this means, Ein Korban Tzibur Cholok. But we don't split up Klal Yisrael. If one group does it one way, we all have to be part of them. So if you don't say it when it's 50-50. But when there's a majority, 5,000,001 are Tamei, then even the Tahirim must join the Tmeim in that group. You hear? Unbelievable. Tmeim. Let's say, I'm saying we'll see soon, call Tmeim, like Litvaks. All the Litvish guys are Tmeim. Shkotzim. You have to join the Shkotzim. As I state though, we're going to see mamish deeper than that. I'm using people in terms of factions and that because that's what it says here. That's the Yisod. It's not true. One person cannot change it. Two people could. Why? Look at this. If you look at Rashi, you could see, look at the top Rashi. Rashi stops short. So what's going on? Because Rashi says, this is how you read the pasuk. You cannot shech the Pesach with one person. B'sharecha means in the cities. The real meaning is b'echad sharecha, in your cities. Be'echad. The Gemara is saying, I'm learning, you make a comma, you make a stop. You cannot use one person to create a majority. You need at least two people. Okay. Chassidus Vart, yeah. That's where they got it from. Reb Shimon Omer, afilu shevet echad tomei ushar kol shvatim tahirim, even if all the shvatim are tar. And you have one shevet that's tomei, halolo oizim la'atzmon, halolo oizim la'atzmon. Why? Here's another pasuk. Not going to be that many charts today. Vayoyim Eloi Elokim, Hashem tells Yaakov Avinu, Ani kel shakai prei revei. I want you to have more children. And what am I going to do? Prei revei goy ukahal goyim yemi meka. Says Rashi, we're talking about that Yaakov Avinu had all the shvatim already. All he was missing was one, Binyamin. Yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to make from you a kahal. Meaning Binyamin is going to be considered a kahal, even though Binyamin is just one shevet. So here you see that a whole community, one shevet, is considered a full kahal, and they have chashivas. Therefore, if one shevet is tamei, and the rest of the shvatim atar, halolo isim latzim, halolo isim latzim, they're considered a majority. The one shevet Binyamin, as small as they are, and they're only one out of 12 shvatim, majority. Therefore, they don't combine. My time at the Rebbe Shimon, it's considered a kahal. Rebbe Yehuda Omer, afidu shevet echad tamei. Here comes the beautiful Rashi. Afidu shevet echad tamei, ushar kol hashvatim tarim. No, if one is tamei and everybody else is tar, yasu betuma. Listen to this. That one shevet, those, so to speak, shkotzim, we'll call them shkotzim. That whole shevet, the bad guys, they're tamei. They drag everybody into tumah. Everybody has to be like them. Why? Shein korban tzibur chalok. So you need to see this Rashi inside. Mamish, amazing Rashi. Let's call it in the middle of the page. It's not really where you think it is. It's 18 lines down. So Rashi says, I need everybody to see this inside. I'm waiting. Count 18 lines down. Uke Rebbe Yehuda, Dibur Maskil Elahachi Kamar, in middle. Uke Rebbe Yehuda, the Omar, Ein korban tzibur chalok. Miki Ovid kahal betuma b'rishon loy maflig lemevat tahir mitahara. So when you have a kahal, a shevet that does it betuma on the first day, the Pesach, not the Pesach Sheni, then everybody else has to be dragged along. Why? The asal l'cholik, you're not allowed to divide, says Rashi. Shignai hadavar, it's disgusting. The muchacha milsa behedya kishenizarim elu me'elu. So Rashi says that's not nice to the Refuah Shelayma when Cholei Yisrael is divided. It's not nice. Different groups. This is the group of the Tmeim, and this is the group of the Tahirim. We're all one. We're all one, and we can take it to different places. We're all one. There's no such thing as Chassidim and Litvaks and Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. We're all one. Yosef just rolled his eyes. He's not masking. Okay. Gnai. Rashi says Gnai, to the point that you take, listen to this, to the point that you take all the tahirim and you make them tameh. You make them tameh. You say, go to the Beis HaMikdash and become tameh. Do it with the rest. Because there's a minority. We call them a majority. They're Cholei Yisrael today. And you have to be together with them. Says the Gemara, Yaseh b'tumah shein korban tzibur cholok. Huh?
If 51 atar, then you don't say 51 atar.
Right. No, but if they're a kahal, the Rabbi Yehuda says they're a kahal. They're the majority. They're the 51%. Halachically, they're the 51%. In fact, the Shevet B'Yom is like one of the small Shevet, right? They're tiny, but they're the majority today because they're a kahal. Once the majority, then all of Cholei Yisrael goes to them. Then they become 50-50. And you cannot divide Cholei Yisrael. So we have to remember this. Rabbi Yehuda says you cannot divide Cholei Yisrael, regardless. Idmar. If Cholei Yisrael is 50-50, listen to this. You go, you take a dead rat when he's not looking, and you shalom aleichem, and you give it to, you're tameh. Once he's tameh, now you have 5,000,001 people that are tameh. Now, what happens? All of Cholei Yisrael could bring the carbon now, because you have all the tameim. They're the majority, and the tahirim are also going to bring the carbon bitoma. So now everybody does it. Until now, we had a problem. It was 50-50, and says Rav, I have eight. Ask the Gemara, it's not as simple as you think. We're going to change it up a little bit. Why? Let them do it separately. Why do you have to make the tahirim tameh? Rav says, if it's 50-50, let each group do it by themselves. What is the point to make 5,000,001? Just 5,000,000 in the group tameh, 5,000,000 in the group tar. Let them all do it Erev Pesach, on Pesach Rishon, but not together. They'll make an announcement from Chveis Chatzos for 2 hours is all the tahirim, and after that, all the tameim come in. Says Gemara, what happened was there was already 5,000,001 tameim. So then what's the problem? Why do you have to make another guy tamei with the sherets? You already have 5,000,001 versus 4,999,999. Remember, we just learned from the bottom of Amud Beis, this is Shita, that one person, be'echad, you cannot change a majority with one person. So he's 5,000,001, that's not enough. We need 5,000,002. So you go ahead and you make another guy tamei.
Because everyone hated this guy. You can't do one guy. Everybody hated him.
So you let two people be the carbon. Let two people be hated. Fine. Yeah, you're mad. Now I'm not going to do shidduch with him. He was the guy last year. He was Mr. Tameh. He was 5,000,001 for his whole life. He's the Mr. that one guy. So you get two guys. What's the problem? At the end of the day, why do you have to make? Even if you have 5,000,001 people versus, let's call it 5,000,000 just to be easy. Let them do it individually. If 5,000,001 is not a majority because you hold agreement with Masi, then one guy cannot tip the balance, tip the scale, or whatever you want. So just do each group by themselves. Says the Gemara, a very interesting thing. If there's a Tana that holds two things. First, he holds like the Tana Kama, like Rav, basically, that 50-50, you do two groups. Tar, Tameh. So then we have a major problem. V'savar like Rabbi Yehuda, but at the same time he's big into his Karlabach. Everybody's good. Everybody's gewaldig. Everybody should go together. What's this division in Cholei Yisrael? It's terrible. You have to be all together. So if you hold like Rabbi Yehuda that you can't be separated, but 50-50 you do two groups. How do you do two groups? You can't be separated. So it's a dilemma. You know what you do? You patter the problem. You touch a guy with a mouse. Now you don't have two groups. You don't have two groups that are equal. You have one group that is a little bit more of a majority, and now everybody's going to do betuma. That's what he was saying. If you hold those two things, Omar in korban tzibur cholok, v'sav in korban tzibur cholok, mitam lechem misheretz. V'ula Omar, Ula has another eitzah. Why do you have to make him tamei with it? It's disgusting. Sheretz, dead mouse. V'ula mishalchem echol mem l'derech chayka. You know what you do? You take a guy. You take one of the tahirim, and you send them out of the camp. Send them away, far. It's far. It takes a long time to get there and a long time to get back. So Mamela, now what do you have? You have a Rav Tomei. So let me ask you a question. Why don't you send one of the Tameim out of the camp? Send one of the Tameim far away, and now all the Tayrim are the majority in Cholei Yisrael. Taisa's answer is very pashut, because then all the Tameim won't be able to do the carbon today. The minority gets pushed off to Pesach Sheni. I want a way that everybody could bring a carbon nice and right in the time. How do you bring everybody, all of Cholei Yisrael together? You send one of the Tayrim away.
See that there's something that we should get everyone together.
Yes. We want everybody to bring the carbon based on the right time and be together.
Knowing our Chevra, probably more Ashkenazi.
I promise you, I'm telling you, Noam, B'zeh Loshen I want to say in 2 minutes. I never stood up in middle shir like that. But it was because you mechaven to my machshava. That name, that person. Why? Says the Gemara. I had it in a kasha, not in a teretz. Whoa. Frag the Gemara. Let him just take a sheretz. Why do you have to send him away, Nebuch, and he's going to be away from his family? Take a sheretz, touch him. It's because he holds that touching a person with a mouse is zero, has zero effect. Why? Since he could become tar that evening, because it's a machlokes. Could you make a guy that's tar with the sheretz, could you give him a Karm Pesach? Right now, you hear the Shaila? Right now he's tamei. But tonight, he's going to be tar. It's only, the tumah lasts very short. It's not tumas meis. It's over tonight. But right now he's tamei. So let me shecht for him meanwhile, prepare the carbon for him, and tonight, when it becomes available, he'll eat it. Yeah, he could eat it. He holds he could eat it. Oh, he could eat it, so he's worthless. He can't tip a scale when you could eat the carbon tonight. Says the Gemara, so give him the strong tumah. Says the Gemara, I just printed this. Why? Stam. So you should remember, because people are already forgetting. What are the karbanas that you have to bring on Pesach? One of them is a carbon chagiga. Forget about the oilas riyah. Remember, oilas riyah you have to bring. Chagiga of tezvav. Now, the chagiga tezvav, you cannot bring the chagiga tezvav. Why? Because you're tamei. Forget about carbon Pesach. Carbon Pesach, I have a Pesach Sheni. Chagiga is done. He's done for life. Hashanami matchiyata b'pischoi, but at the end there you're pushing it over from Pesach. Says Gemara, Efshe Dovid b'Sheni. There is a Pesach Sheni. Okay, so he'll be pushed up by a month if he lives that long. B'meis nami Efshe Dovid b'Shvi. But wait a minute, the carbon Chagiga you could also bring at the end of Pesach. If it became tamei on the 14th, he's already tahar 7 days later on the 20th. Let him bring on the 7th day of Pesach. Let him bring the Chagiga. Says Gemara, Mordechai Yisoid, Davish Minim Shaloi. Says Gemara, Kasavula, Kulu Tashlumim the Rishoninu. No, the only time you could bring a carbon chagiga on the 3rd day of Pesach, the 4th day of Pesach, the 5th day of Pesach, is if you were available on the 1st day of Pesach. You were available, just whatever reason, you couldn't bring it. You didn't have a carbon, you forgot. You bring it on the 3rd day, the 4th day. But here you weren't available. Over here you were tamei meis. He cannot bring a carbon forever. You have to, it's not that you could bring a carbon on the 3rd day of Pesach, the 4th day of Pesach. You have to bring the carbon on the 1st day. If you can't bring it on the 1st day, then I allow you to bring it on the 3rd day. But he couldn't bring it on the 1st day, so he's not in the parsha at all. So Rav Nachman says, Zilu va'amru leilu ula, go tell Ula, man sayid the okar sikeu mashkin v'roit. I don't understand, says Rav Nachman. Who in the world will volunteer to leave their family for Pesach, Erev Pesach, run away, take a tent, but you have to move fast because you have to get all the way to a place where you can't come back. And everybody's waiting for you. Get on a horse, go 100 miles an hour, and just stay there. So when I learned the Gemara, I said, what do you mean? Mark Ashkenazi would do it in a second. As a matter of fact, yesterday, so I was trying to explain to my chavrus Mark Ashkenazi. So he's like, no, nobody would do it. I said, so Meir Koenig. Meir Koenig, you understand? Yes. So he says, okay, bring me your phone. He takes my phone, and he leaves Meir Koenig a message. Would you volunteer? I said, what are you asking? Of course he would volunteer. But anyway, there's the Meir Koenigs of the world, there's the Mark Ashkenazis, the Shlomi Kleins. By the way, Mark Ashkenazi and Shlomi Klein both did this Refuah Shelayma for. I might have to give them a refund because where is he? He's not even on here. Oh yeah, David Shmuel Ben Bela Devorah. It's the MDY Chevra, but I forgot it at home. And New York MDY, they sponsored it. So anyway, I'm not such a bal chesed, but I'd volunteer. I think because if I could cause all of Cholei Yisrael to do the carbon, so why should I be selfish and stay here? And then I'll be famous. Then they'll say, oh, he does the 8 minute daf, whatever. That guy, yeah, that guy.
Opposite of the guy that
The opposite of the guy. What?
Be alone a little bit. You volunteer because you'd be happy to be alone a little bit and leave the family.
Like I'm not doing that enough. Okay, fine. A shtickle be doing. Itmar. Hayu Ruban Zavim. So, for this we have to realize this pasuk right over here. You see this pasuk? We had this pasuk. Well, Nachamal. Ish ki yeh tamei lo nefesh. Who does b'chodesh hasheni? Who does Pesach Sheni? Only an individual that touches a dead body. What about a zav? A zav is tremendous tumah. It comes right out of his body, the ziva. A sickness. He doesn't have Pesach Sheni. If all of Cholei Yisrael got a disease, a virus that causes ziva, and they cannot bring a carbon Pesach on the first Pesach, they don't do Pesach Sheni. Done. So, very interesting case here. What happens if 90% of Cholei Yisrael, let's call it, okay, 9 million Jews had ziva, and 1 million people went to Rabbi Batya Yosef's levaya, and they're all Tmei Meis. So you have 1 million Tmei Meis, 9 million Zavim. Omarav, Oisan Tmei Meisim, Einan Oisan Leberishon V'Lebesheni. Those 1 million Jews have a major problem. Rishon Le'avdi, Dava Miyutu, Umiyutu Le'avdi Berishon. Only when you're a Tamei majority, like the Zavim, but the Zavim don't do it, they don't push off Tumah. So they don't do B'chlal. The Zavim, they don't do it on the Rishon. The Tmeim, they're the minority. Minority cannot push off the first Pesach. Only if 9 million Jews were Tmei Meis could they push off the first Pesach. But they're only 1 million. They're only 10% of Cholei Yisrael. So they have to go to the Pesach Sheni. The chap here is that they can't even do it on Pesach Sheni. You know why? Because no one, not a single Jew, brought a carbon Pesach with Pesach Rishon. That's how they're learning. Most of Rishonim. Not a single Jew. Why? Because 9 million were Zavim. They can't bring a carbon Pesach. And 1 million are Tmei Meis. The entire Cholei Yisrael was Tamei. So there's not a single carbon Pesach that year, unfortunately. And when there's not a single carbon Pesach in Pesach Rishon, then there's nothing on Pesach Sheni. It's becoming a habit not to turn the page until like 5 days before the end of Shir. Tomorrow it's a shorter daf. But if the Cholei Yisrael doesn't do it in the first Pesach, Shmuel says, I don't understand. Zilu Amrlu la'Abba, go tell Abba that he used to call Rav. Abba, a Lashon Kavod, you're supposed to do a carbon Pesach. What's going on here? Look, even the sorry. Go tell Shmuel. What kind of question is that? What do you mean? You have to do a carbon, but sometimes you can't. Our hands are tied behind the back. What if all of Cholei Yisrael were Zavim? They don't do the carbon Pesach on the first Pesach. It's a situation where you just can't. Well, I don't understand your question. Itmar, let's flip the case. 9 million people went to Levaya. 1 million people are Zavim. Now, the question is, so, what happened? 9 million, you have the Roiv. So do you do a carbon Pesach b'Pesach Rishon? Yes, you do, because it's the Roiv. The Roiv of Cholei Yisrael. Taught me today, you do the Pesach b'Tumah. Tumah Hutcha, Tumah Hutra, whatever it is. But what about the Zavim guys? Are they allowed to do the carbon Pesach b'Pesach Sheni? Rabbi Omar, ain't tashlum lePesach haba b'Tumah.
They can't do on Rishon, the Zavim?
No. No.
Only two Masmei?
No. But they, right, only when you're a mace do you get pushed off, but they're Zavs, they can't do it at Berishon.
Why? Because
Yeah.
they're
Only for those guys. Yeah. Only Tumas mace. Ravuna Omar, ain't tashlum lePesach haba b'Tumah. Says Ravuna, But because the first Pesach was an interesting Pesach, that everybody brought a betumah, then we have to cancel the second Pesach. The only time you have a second Pesach is when all of Cholei Yisrael did the first Pesach b'tahara, normal. And we had a few individuals that didn't do it, so we give them Pesach Sheni. But if it's a weird Pesach that everybody's Taveh, the first one, we cancel the second one. And Memela, the Zavim, Kireach Mikan Mukan. The Zavim are already tar, by the way. But they can't bring it. And even if the first Pesach was all 9 million Jews were Tmei Meis, so they pushed off Pesach. The second Pesach does exist. Name it Balka Mifligi. Maybe this is a very interesting shaila. The man domain tashlum lePesach b'tuma. Perhaps this is the shaila. This is the machlekes. Kosav tuma tchuya b'tzibur. So what's going on here? Tuma tchuya means that we have a bunch of people that are tamei, and beles breira, we force HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, into a position where we brought the Korban Pesach b'tuma, but we're still tamei. It's the guy driving an ambulance, but he has to be careful. He can't turn the volume. He can't do anything. He's careful. So if he's tamei, then the following Pesach, the second Pesach, we don't do it at all. But if we view Cholei Yisrael that are tamei, kehutar, so you can turn on the volume, you can do whatever. It's not Shabbos. It doesn't exist. There's nothing. So they're not tamei. They're completely tar. If they're completely tar, then the second Pesach exists. Then you do have a Pesach Sheni. You hear what's going on here? If it's Tumah Tchuya, so then everybody was Tamei. You view them as Tmeim. If you view them as Tmeim, then there's no Pesach Sheni. But if you say it's Hutar, then you don't view them as Tmeim. You view them as Tahirim, and then there is a Pesach Sheni. Says Gemara, no, we'll say, okay, it's B'di Eved. It's mamish shvachazach. You push it off, but it's not the way to do it. Ememela what? They're all considered what? Tmeim. Ubahapligi. So here's the machlokes. Mar sovar tahara medachia. Tumeloi medachia. If they are tahar, then you push it off to the second Pesach. But if they're tamei, you don't push it off. So Bekitzer, there's no Pesach Sheni according to one man doma. Umar sovar filu tumen nami medachia. Who told you? If Cholei Yisrael is tamei, so they could do a Pesach Sheni. Who says that Pesach Sheni has to do with what people are? Tamei Tar. We just turned to Daf Amud Beis, if you were spacing out while we turned the page. Sponsored by KesherNavshi.org. Zchus, for the struggling kids in pain of Cholei Yisrael, and for the Refuah Shelayma. Listen to this. We have people from all of Cholei Yisrael, especially those from MDY, like Dr. Shamroth, Gevaldik Yid, on Zoom every single day, and Dovid address. Chaver and Gunim, and all these other people. Shlomo Miller's son. It's crazy. Please consider Shira, Bas Devorah, what's her name? And then Tzubeli, whatever, I'm forgetting Tzubeli, Rebbe Tzubeli. Her husband, the guy that, I don't know if you ever went to New York, he puts chairs on his head, on his nose, on his teeth, that guy. Umar Sovar, so. Huh? Who? Really? Wow, what a zchut. Dr. Shamroth. First thing he asked for when he went to the hospital, my Gemara. And now he's watching. He had surgery yesterday. I don't know how these people do it. Unreal. After surgery, watching a share. You should have a Refuah Shelayma, Dr. Shamroth. We want to see you on Zoom in great health. Itmar. Don't tell me I forgot my chart. Oh, ugh. All right, I apologize. Rabbi Isai. It's actually saved, so if you want to share it on Zoom, you can just do that. It's a very simple chart. What I did was, there's Zavim in the middle, and you have Tahirim, and you have Mesim. 3 categories of Cholei Yisrael, a third. People that are completely tar, people that are tamei with a ziva, people that are tamei with mace. Omer Rabbi Bar Patish. Ramani, son of a hammer. Oisam tmei mesim. What? Hayu shlishisim zavim, shlishazim tahirim, shlishazim tmei mesim. Third. Omer Rabbi Bar Patish. The son of a hammer said, Oisam tmei mesim, edem oisam lois harishon, v'lois hasheni. Those people that are tmei meis, they can't do a Korban Pesach at all. Why? Barishon layavdi. The reason why they don't do in the first one, the zavim, why? Igdilu zavim ala ta'irim, do layavdi betuma. Now, the zavim go together with the tahirim. We know a zav doesn't bring a carbon Pesach the first Pesach. Why? Because his tum is not a tmei mace. Only tmei mace if he's a roiv. But anyway, the zav doesn't do it. So the zav is in the category of a tar. Somebody higdilu zavim ala tahirim delei avde betuma. Where am I? Recently, I have the higdilu zavim ala tahirim delei avde betuma. Havalei tmei mace muta. So now we have the zavim and the tahirim on one side, and the tmei mace on the other side. So they are the minority. The mace are minority. And therefore, the mason cannot, the tmei mace cannot bring a carbon on the first. In order for you to bring a carbon on the first Pesach, betuma, you have to be a majority. They're not a majority. You cannot, right, Yosef, this is what you were bothered by before. You can't take the tumah of the zavim and combine it, with the tumah of the mason and say, oh, majority of Cholei Yisrael are tumah. They're a different tumah. They're a tumah that we don't care about. We care about the tumah of mace. Sheni lo yavdi, and the same tmei mace. Okay, so they're the minority. The minority should bring a carbon, the Pesach Sheni. That's when the minorities bring it. Nizru zavim and tmei mason. No, because now the zavim are already tar. And they combine with tmei mason, delei avdi b'rishon. Havalu ruba veruba lo yimidchu Pesach Sheni. Now the zavim and the tmei mason combine together in a group, and they are the majority. Majority does not bring a carbon Pesach b'Pesach Sheni. Only minority. So the tmei mason are kireach mikan u'mikan. Brand new Mishnah. I don't know who's sponsoring today. I don't know official. What's going on with the sponsorship? Sponsored zchut Refuah Shelayma for all Cholei MDY. You threw the blood of the carbon Pesach, and only afterwards you realized that what's shehu? The blood. Oh, here's that. There's a little bit. Oh, something's missing. Okay, I hear. You found out that the blood was tamei. After the fact, you already did zrika. You found that the blood was tamei. You found that the meat was tamei. Hatzitz miratzel. The tzitz that the kohen gadol wears, the golden plate that he wears on his forehead, gives a kapara to the point. What does it mean, miratza? Not that you could eat anything. Again, when it says miratza, it doesn't mean that you could eat. It just means you don't have to pay another $500 for a sheep for another carbon pesach. You're yaitza with the first one. Nidma agov, but what if the owner himself, his body became tamei? Ei natzitz miratza. The Torah says, look, it's a mefurish pasuk. Ish shkiyat tamei lo nefesh. So there's no ritzui here. The Torah says you do it in Pesach Sheni. Fine, Pesach Sheni. Nidma agov and natzitz miratza mipnei she'amru. Fine, finished. Mipnei she'amru hanazer v'iseh Pesach. Rabbi Isai, what are the two karbanos in the world that you cannot bring the carbon if you are tamei? If you are tamei, you can bring a shelaimah, you can bring a oila, you can bring a chatas. Why? I'm tamei, but I tell the kohen, hey, I'm not going to come in here, but take my animal and bring it on the mizbech. What's the problem? Not by carbon pesach, and not by a nazar. Why? Carbon pesach you have to eat, so you're not roy to eat it, so you can't bring it. A nazar, we said the same thing. You're cooking it, you're putting the hair underneath the pot, you're waving the foreleg, whatever you're doing, you have to be roy. So. Fine. They said that these two, the tzitz is miratza on the blood, but it's not miratza on the body, because if the person himself is tamei, he doesn't bring a carbon nazir and he doesn't bring a carbon pesach. Nidma tumas hatoim. Here's a new concept alert, musag alert. I don't think we learned this idea from the beginning of Shabbos. Tumas hatoim is a tumah that's unknown. Say there's a body deep in the ground, you didn't know about it. It's different than a body that you find there. There's a halacha Moshe Messina that says that if you made a carbon pesach and later on you found out that you sat on a dead body, you bought a house that only later on you found out there's a body right in your living room. You didn't know about it. Tumas hatoim. You're yaitza. So it's a combination. It's a halacha Moshe Messina / you need a tzitz over here. Says the Gemara, Taima, what happened? Wow, it's not even a joke. You know, I'm serious. I just sat with somebody because I was looking to buy a house, and we were just talking about it. That here in Refuah Shelaima, they have all these graves, and as you're buying, I literally yesterday asked, I forgot. I asked the person, were there any graves there? He says, no, we took care of the graves. It was Golovensic. I was talking to Mrs. Golovensic, and her brothers are building thousands of units, and it took them years and years. The Yerushalmis would stand there every single day, and she was telling me the whole mice, I get rid of them, shtickle money. They don't stand there, she said, anymore. Just yesterday, I was talking about it. Says the Gemara. Let's do a line or two. That says in the Mishnah of the Lashon, the first words, you threw the blood. So it seems like that you found out after the fact. But if you threw it and then if you threw it first, you knew first and then you threw it, it doesn't work. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? It says Mefurish, what does the tzitz come? Here it says, Aladam, ala basar, ala chaylev, on all the parts of the animal, shenitma that became tamei. Bein b'shogig, bein b'mezid. What does this mean? L'chayre means that, what's b'mezid? When I threw the blood, I did it on purpose. I knew that it was tamei and I threw it. It says, chaylev, and then b'mezid. The Gemara is going to say, no, these words, bein b'mezid, is not talking about throwing the blood. It's talking about making the animal tamei. Two different things. So everything that tzitz miratza. So you see that even if you do it deliberately, even though you had knowledge that it's tamei and I threw it on the mizbeach, tzitz gives you a kapara. It's a good thing. You don't have to bring another carbon. Or Ravina, no. Tumasai, bein b'shayig, bein b'mezid urtzam. The bein b'shayig is going on that the animal became tamei b'mezid. You deliberately made the blood tamei, let's say. And then the kohen, without knowing it, took it and threw it on the mizbeach. But the throwing was b'shaygi. Zrikasa b'shaygi kurtza, b'mezid lo yurtza. Fine. Ema asad. We have to stop here, unfortunately. Smacking sugya. We will catch up, I promise. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Shema Elois, Memakin Kasicha Adinoi. Adinoi Shema B'Koili Tinus Dach Yeshuvas L'Dach Dechanoi. Ima B'nei Tishmo Ya Adonoi Mi Amod. Kimchas Techol Lemat L'Borei. Yisrael Nikum Sanam Shiv L'Borei. Yisrael Adinoi, Shema L'Boika. Yisrael Adinoi, Chesed V'Arbei Moi Fidos. ובן שיחום כל הבנים סוף, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנסורים בצורי ושיבה, האוים דם בין ביום ובין ביבושו, המוקים ירחם עליהם, ויציב מצורם לברכה, ומאפל לא יראה, ומשוב לגבולה. השתו! בגלוב בזמן קוריב ונאמר אמן. Good morning, Eitan. Really? MDY. That's right, the biggest Gilu Shechina. Well, let's tell the Oilam. Sei gesund. Eitan Orgorik just came back from a shir from Rachel Weinberger, and he said that the biggest Gilu Shechina is when different factions of Cholei Yisrael come together. That's a Gilu Shechina. That's what he said. That's right, Gilu Shechina.
Mrs. Stefansky, I won't be seeing you for a long time.
Hello. It's a bracha for all of Cholei Yisrael, and it's a bracha for all of MDY. I paid the authorities to put you in that hotel for 10 days. Trust me. It wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap, but it was very well worth it. It was very well worth it.
I'm going to come here to give you this iPad so you can show the chart. The problem is they didn't send it online.
I didn't what?
They didn't send it on WhatsApp yet.
See how to get on the flight. I would love to get on the flight. I just want out.
You need the Mashiach pass. What you need to do is just go to the airport and lie down on the tarmac in front of the plane. If they can't move it, they'll let you on.
Anything for tomorrow?
What?
Anything for tomorrow? Anything for tomorrow?
Like what?
Like charts.
No, I get the charts last minute. Gary, could you speak to Mordechai about, Yosef says he needs a thumb drive. If he has a thumb drive, he could upload it in a second. He's sitting there for 3-4 hours uploading. But meanwhile, there's a lot of people that want to watch the Shir right after Shir. You're missing those 3 hours that they can't watch it. No?
They can watch it online. They can watch it in the library. They could.
They could, but then we don't get their numbers. Their numbers don't count, so we lose 70 people. Because once you upload the second one, everything gets erased. I count numbers, my friend. Hello, when are we going to do this teleprompter? We have so much to do. Good morning, good morning.
You want a teleprompter?
I have one. You have one?
No, I'm saying you want to put it here?
No, I want to put it in my studio. When do you start wearing tchelis?
February 20th, the first day you can come into Israel.
When?
You have to get a
Are you're not coming this Wednesday?
February 20th, they just called. I just called to make sure I have kosher food on my flights. He's like, oh, there's no flights till February 20th.
But my sister says she's on a flight on Thursday. We'll see what happens. She says from New York she can go. She said she's coming on. They canceled the few. She had a flight this Sunday. Obviously, it turned into a cargo flight, and then she had another flight. Because they promised her Thursday. We'll see. But she's a little different than Yeshua. I don't know, New York. But she has 2 vaccines, so it's possible that she doesn't have to go through the whole problem that Yeshua is going to go through. I don't know. I am davening. I've never been such a rush in my life. I've been davening that she gets stuck in America for 4 or 5 months, and then my brother won't be upset at me. Meanwhile, my brother he's pretending he's not, but I think he's upset that I didn't come to the wedding. But once he sees, first of all, right now it's already good. He sees that it wasn't so posh. The flights are getting pushed off. My sister left her little kids with a cousin. So now, could you just take care of them for another week? It's crazy.